Gabe are already set in stone. It's all up to the number 3 team, and that's what totally just rattled off.
Yep.
Tons of scary stuff if you're rooting for virtually any of these squads. It's now be banned out by Noble, and the Thoth guy will be banned out by Cope. 2 more bans left to go.
Right now, Noble is coming off of a huge loss against Memory of Gabe, surrendering not even 16 minutes into the game. It's going to take its toll on you mentally to have to bounce back from that game where you're losing to a sub on Meerkat in the solo lane. Still, regardless, a strong team on the side of Memory Gabe, but now having to face Cope is still the problem for a chance to still battle your way into the Season 4 SPL.
I like the selection from Noble right here. Chapo has played Thor twice today, and it just hasn't been working out. So they give him a god that he's a lot stronger on, a god that he's looked better on. Even today here, Thanatos with Chapo has looked already fantastic. Cope is going to answer back with a Serket and Sylvanas. You know, I find the Serket choice interesting against the Thanatos. Thanatos does very well against Serket, despite the fact that she has anti-heal.
It's about the mobility as well. It just seems to me that Mexide has been playing Serket for such a while today specifically, as well as Noble going back to their roots. Their first 2 games, it was all Thanatos and Zeus for Chapo and MLC stuff. Now bringing it back for their last game of the day for this squad, pairing it up now with Kepri for Wubben.
So the Poseidon on the other side, is it going to answer with Zeus?
The Poseidon with the Zeus combination, it's just a good idea to lock him down whenever you can when Sylvanas finds the root. It's not really about the 1v1, it's more about the team fights, trying to get the area of control effect.
Apollo and Hercules are going to be banned out. Hercules, interestingly, Hercules ran European relegations and has kind of been missing here in North America. Why is that?
It just seems to me like a lot of North American solo laners will prefer safer gods, less room for error. Hercules is one of those gods where if you miss your pull, well, there goes your whole engage. Totally. It's a lot easier to play tier than it is Hercules.
Thank you. We don't do no Johns here, no nice words. They like him because they don't like him because he's too hard. The Europeans can handle him no problem. Ula and Robin are going to round out the Noble lineup of Kepri, Zeus, and Thanatos, whereas Cope, Serket, Sylvanas, Poseidon, Aram, and that last choice will be likely the solo lane. And we're going to take a look at where they opt to go here in just a second.
Surprisingly, Cope,
tier.
He's been known to play a lot of Erlang Shen back in the day.
Yeah, where'd he go?
He apparently decides not to play him anymore. Despite the changes of his Javelin toss, not having that cripple anymore, it's still a very solid god in the laning phase, especially with Destol having even more of a beneficial sustaining option, having health, 8 health per hit, as well as 3 mana per hit on every single hit, especially when it's AoE.
Exactly. We're getting into game right here. And Uzi will be playing on that Robin. You know, even in the loss, a 16-minute surrender coming out from Noble just before, even in that loss, the Robin out of Uzi looked strong. I mean, I said it before where Uzi and Chapo is the more celebrated player, the louder player, and arguably the more talented player. But if Chapo is the more talented player, Uzi does not trail by much, if at all. He just doesn't make as much noise, and so he's a little bit less celebrated.
This is all about the early aggression coming out of Noble. The way Chapo and Uzi is going to play, I can already tell, because the fact that we see Boots 2 with the Bumba's Mask for El Chapo. He wants to be able to get off to a very early game lead here. He only has 2 potions available to him, which is going to be the health and the multi-pot. So having up this Aegis as well, trying to limit the damage potential out of Viper with the Kraken should put him in a good enough position to maybe get a good early lead, especially considering the fact that Robin early on is superior to the tier.
That's another thing, as we see a relatively normal start here. No proxy farming, which if you're just joining us and are unfamiliar with the term, the proxy farm is basically what we see when teams go behind the tier 1 tower and take care of the minions before they even reach the wave. And that's been a very acceptable strategy here in our just the beginnings of Season 4. So no shenaniganery like that so far.
Not quite yet.
Early in this game.
There's still a lot of smarts to be played.
Here's some shenaniganery coming out from Noble as they're invading into the speed buff. 4 men strong. And they'll drop it without a hitch. They'll actually get behind Viper here in the mid lane. Poseidon just now catches it. Wubben has the grab, nabs him. There's the shield.
That's
big damage on the Viper.
Not gonna have the detonate quite yet. Only a level 2 Zeus has the shield, has the chain lightning. Because of the result of the Thanatos and the Raven out clearing the tier and the Circuit, they were able to 4-man collapse onto that speed and then come behind a Viper. Early Oracles going into the way of Cope is the problem, and I like the fact that Viper was very patient there. He wasn't really wasn't pulling the trigger on his relic, despite going for the Aegis, also trying to survive against the Thanatos executions.
Cope and Mixity are here for the invade on the blue buff. Big Fearless coming out of Cope. Chapo's in trouble, half HP below. He's one hit away. Uzi's gonna slow the opponent, and he fixed that face. But Viper gets first blood as Chapo walks directly into the tidal wave.
What a solid rotation coming out of Viper. Not even 2 minutes into the game, taking advantage of the aggression from El Chapo. This is something that he's always been known to do. It doesn't really matter what god he's playing or what lane he decides to go on. You can expect Chapo to make some sort of offensive play. So once you clear your lane in mid, you follow El Chapo in the jungle. You stick on to him like glue.
To be fair, though, I mean, that's the norm for this meta, if you will. The beginning of Season 4 is very aggressive, so I don't want to paint the picture that Chapo made a mistake by invading into that blue buff this early on. That's kind of par for the course. It's just the fact that Noble were able to respond with not just their solo laner and their jungler, but also the mid, and MLC was stuck in lane.
Every piece of the puzzle just had to fit perfectly to find that first blood, and that's going to allow Mixity maybe to get a slight advantage here, especially considering the Boots 3 hasn't been completed before the first bag from El Chapo. However, because of that speed buff invade earlier on from Chapo, he's able to now control his own speed buff, so he hasn't really lost too much of the mobility, and now he's able to help out Uzi secure his own blue buff.
Yeah, and Thanatos has mobility alone with the Sense of Death. His second ability is sprint type deal, and of course his passive helps along that way as well. So Chapo here making his loop back around. He's just gonna leech off of Uzi for the entirety until he hits level 5, and then right there, now that the ultimate's available, I think we're gonna see more rotation coming out from Chapo.
Could be an easy target to go on Poseidon. He doesn't have to find the execute threshold. He can always just look to engage with it, and then during the CC stun, because there's no purification on the side of Viper, the death sight immediately after landing from the stun is good enough to chunk him down to under half health. Stealth can build up some of the stacks from his ultimate, some chain lightning procs as well, wait for the Aegis to wear off, and then look for the detonate.
The problem with that is that Poseidon is actually one of the few gods that you don't want to be dunking down early on. Early game, you want to use that ultimate as the initiation, like you said, and then late game, the execute threshold becomes relevant. But the problem here is you dunk down onto the Poseidon, you hit him with the Death Scythe, and if you do not kill that target within the stun duration with help from your mid laner, you're getting krakened in the feet, and that is a bad situation for Thanatos to be in.
Viper, though, now does use the Aegis. He knew he was about to get pulled in by Wub and Stealth, electing to hold on to his chain lightning detonate combination. Chapo nowhere to be found really during that, but now Viper's gonna take a lot of poke. The ultimate comes out from Stealth. That's first blood.
And that's gonna be the first blood for Noble at least. And MLC is gonna get his team back on the board. Almost gonna have that goal to go ahead and finish up that Warlock sash, most likely. Taking to the sky is going to be Thanatos. This is that initiation we're talking about. But Thanatos way too far away. Chapo not on his game in the latter half of the day. Looked a lot stronger earlier on. These marathon engagements, you know, this has been, we've been broadcasting since 1 p.m., so we've been on for about 8 hours right now. That definitely has to impact the players.
I believe Chapo was just so used to having the mobility from his Heartseeker, maybe Stone Cutting Sword as well with the speed buff, expecting that ultimate to go a little bit further than it actually did. Instead, only having the Boots 3 now working on that Stone Cutting Sword more than likely, potentially could be the Heartseeker. So it's going to be whiles away before he has the mobility that he's accustomed to with the new build for Season 4.
So certainly, yeah, all that movement speed will certainly change your perception of how that one works out. Of course, he's been playing a lot of Thor, might have, I don't know, like I said, playing for 8 hours, there's definitely a lot of things that can enter the player's mind and sort of change how he might play. Mixity jumps forward and gets the spin kick out of Uzi.
That's a very interesting gank to come from the side and use an ability for, but now coming from behind is El Chapo. He's saving onto his death side before the poke, and now Cope taking a lot of poke, but there is no execute available quite yet. The rotation from Viper is going to deter Chapo from rotating any further, but they pick up Fire Giant Elementals along the way, so that's a small win.
I gotta yell at Uzi for that one, honestly, totally. Split DPS. If Uzi is targeting Cope on the tier, I think that winds up being a kill, whether Uzi kills him himself or brings the player down to execute threshold. Chapo gonna throw a disc out way off the mark. And Mexidi gonna be safe underneath the tower alongside her jungler solo.
And the mid lane stealth doing a lot of damage with that ultimate. It's not gonna necessarily kill Viper quite yet. The detonate is not maxed out, but it is gonna bring him in the execute threshold. Chapo wants it potentially, but the sustain from the wisps gets him out of the execute threshold. It zones away Viper and Valentine long enough for Noble to start up this early 6.5-minute Gold Fury, though.
Exactly, and that's the only reason that's a win, and you got to point to the Sanitas.
Here come the snipes.
There's shots raining down from the sky. Won't be nearly enough.
Finds two. Aegis on the third one, though. Gold Fury does go in the way of Noble. Chapo having to retreat because of how low he is, but it's up to Cope to kind of go forward here. Mexidi's going to find the ultimate onto Wubbin, going to ultimate on top of himself. The revive should be able to proc it, but Sops is not going to commit. Zeus ultimate was down, Thanatos ultimate was down. There's a lot of cooldowns that could have been taken advantage of there.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think Sops is just a little bit not too confident. Sort of like what I was talking before. Playing for a long time, you can definitely become accustomed to other characters or this, that, or a third, but also Sops has unfortunately gotten wrecked his entire time here. Cope has really not been very successful as a team, but individually, Cope has had success, Mexidi has had success, Valentine has been fine, Viper has even had some moments, even though he's played Poseidon virtually every single game. Sops has been the one member on this team that unfortunately for him and his squad has not really made an impact. That, Tully, that's got to get in your head, man. And if you're just sitting there, you got to at this point in time, you got to be second guessing yourself just a little bit.
You have to be a little bit careful because this is do or die for both teams. Kobe needs to win to secure it. And Valentine gets caught out of position. Great pull coming out of Wubbin. And now it's going to be a 5-on-4 play for Noble as they continue the aggression. They're going to look to invade the blue safely, no problem at all. This is not a point of contention that Cope really wants to try to contest.
I mean, that's where First Blood went, but such a different scenario right here. Mexidi hanging around the corner of the rock, going to introduce himself to Uzi. Uzi's going to fix that face in response. Spin kick to avoid some of the damage. Still
I don't think he has enough.
Chase is Mexidi. And with the taunt already down, he's going to be fine.
I thought at first he didn't have enough mana, but it was actually he didn't have the ultimate, and now it's going to be Cope in a lot of trouble as Chapo comes landing on it, but they're juking out the Fearless. Great job, and now Uzi is going to position himself in front of Mexidi so that Chapo is not going to be focused. However, Mexidi's ultimate is up and available at this point, so any target here would be good enough to set up a Fearless under that tier 1 tower.
Chapo has his Death Scythe back. I can't really say Death Scythe. I always stumble over my words, so I always just say disc. Right now, Viper is going to get stuck in the circle that is Zeus ult, and Z-Man Jr. just barely going to come short. About 10 HP on the mid lane Viper. Not going to be enough to kill. Here comes Chapo one more time. Disc available, trying to find it. Won't be able to even look at Mexidi. Wubbin misses the pluck.
Fearless.
There's going to be a nice little zone, and Cope, baby, walks into the wall, and as he puts him in the ground.
That was a great Fearless to avoid the bug hug coming out of Wubbin, but not able to survive the damage coming out of Zeus and the disc that was thrown by Chapo. So great rotation so far from Noble. Able to get 3 kills on the board thus far, having about a 2,000 gold lead with that Gold Fury earlier on.
And a 2,000 gold lead this early on is just so powerful. I mean, it's relative gold is kind of an advanced notion, but at the end of the day, 2K at 10 minutes matters a lot more than 2K later on in the game.
And it's always about the experience. Whenever you look at gold, you have to look at experience. 3,000 experience in the favor of Noble. We're looking at Mexidi versus El Chapo here, more importantly, to see those level disparities as we see Sops trying to bait out Wowie in a 1v1, but it seems that Wowie sniffs this one out.
Yeah, Wowie's a little bit too smart to really go for that one. I mean, I think he can see Mexidi.
No, I think he's still hidden in the stealth.
He's stealth there, but wow.
Is that a ward right behind him, though?
Yeah.
It is a ward. So he got spotted by the ward earlier on. He knows he's right there.
He knows he's sitting there. Wowie is almost baiting the jump in. See, turns into the X stance immediately.
He played himself, though.
Yeah, no. So right there, Wowie knows that the Circuit is sitting there, plays up to try and like, oh, I'm just going to stun him and jump away and then taunt, but he gets bursted.
Well, he didn't even try to jump away. He knew that the Circuit was going to jump in. He tried to axe down first before the jump, and he kind of just played himself there because the animation of Circuit is too quick.
Look at that pull! Valentine grabs Chapo out of the ground and is able to drop him right into the Poseidon ultimate. But Chapo gets love from his own support.
Cope is in execute threshold.
But he's down again. That's going to be the kill for Uzi. Chapo's mad. Misses the hit onto the jungler. And now he's got to find a new target. Viper seems to be the target for Uzi. Up top, silence is good. Death Sight is strong. Uzi gets the last hit. Another one going to the solo lane. Trouble for Chapo again as he's pushed onto the tower. Uzi keeps stealing his jungler's kills. And Anxiety gets credit as Chapo falls to the ultimate of the Circuit.
Without having the Jaegers, without the Kepri ultimate, there was no survivability for El Chapo from Anxiety's ultimate. Nice detonate onto Sops, and this is what Stealth has been doing so well this whole game consistently. He might not be getting the kills that he needs, even though he already has 2 out of the 5. He could have potentially had 4 or 5 based off of the damage that he's been doing. Top of the board so far at 8,000. He's been constantly forcing people back into base, which is why we see a 2-level disparity between Stealth and Viper.
Anxiety going to show up and do something. Not going to be enough, and just watches as Noble is able to take down the objective. 4,000 gold in the lead, despite only a 2-kill lead. Noble crushing it right now, 12 minutes in. Chapo here, 0-2 and 4. A little bit deceptive here. I think he might have been at least 0-1, or at least a couple of kills and 1 death. But Uzi by himself, he's been a big man, but can he defend the tier 2? Jumping away from the support. Great play right there. Tier 2 still alive, 50%. Uzi by himself chases away. Cope is the problem in its entirety. All 5 players.
All 5 grouped up for that tier 1 tower down the mid lane. A great use of the immunity frames from Uzi, avoiding the Kraken. Surprisingly enough, electing to dive that tower instead of Anxiety trying to pull him out with the poisons from the Circuit instead. And now, as a result of everyone wasting time, this gives Noble enough time to get the Portal Demon. 12, almost 13 minutes into the game. Chapo is in a lot of trouble, but Stealth is here to bail him out, and that's 1 kill for him. Cope is going to Lawbringer back in, but without another detonate, he's going to be safe. But 5-on-3 in the meantime, and Noble is going to take advantage of that by grouping up on the right-hand side.
Man, fantastic. Just a couple of fantastic sequences. I really loved Uzi right there in the mid lane. A lot of players, I think the go-to move for your spin kick, your immunity ability on Robin, oh, Kraken, that's what you want to immune. But instead, knowing he's tanky enough to take the damage as Valentine is surrounded, should be all right at the end of the day. Different story for Cope.
Stealth is
the
here.
Rotation from the mage. His ultimate's down, so no big rain coming out just yet. Wow, we're going to give poke. But
a lot of poke.
Uzi understands just how tanky he is with a couple of items, and so he knows he can take the damage as long as he's not in the middle. So he walks to the outside of the Kraken and uses the immunity to avoid the crowd control, which is what would have screwed him. So he smart saves it. Unfortunately for his teammate, he winds up taking one of those Thanatos kills, and that ultimately kills Chapo. But Uzi, this is his time to shine.
And that was so important for Uzi to avoid that, because right now he doesn't have any magical defense. He has the Breastplate of Valor into the Gladiator Shield, and if he did get hit by the Kraken, then he would have definitely popped that meditation to be able to survive a little bit further. So Uzi has been playing pretty efficiently here. The question is, how is he going to translate this into team fights? Right now he has 3 levels ahead of Cope. So this is looking so solid for Uzi to be able to make a bigger impact by going into that backline. Like you mentioned before, all he has to do is save that immunity for that big Kraken, and he's in there like swimwear.
So when it comes down to, I'm loving the performance out of Uzi, because I've said it time and time again that, you know, Chapo is the focal point of this team. That's what everybody's going to be looking at. Uzi gets ulted, and honestly, more problem with Sops. Jump away from Uzi as he laughs in the face of the Kraken. Chapo gonna miss the ultimate as Anxiety walks away. Trouble for Chapo, taking the tower and the Poseidon Whirlpool. Chapo gets out of there, no problem. MLC on the chase, saving the detonate, drops it down, but it's not enough to kill. But it's created the space, and the tier 1 tower goes down.
It's all about the damage out of Stealth. 13, almost 14,000 damage. Gets enough members low enough that they have to retreat. And now it's gonna be a 4-on-2 under this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side. Wowie's not doing that much damage yet, and so it's taking a little bit of time. Nice blink fearless onto Wowie, preventing more damage.
And he's gonna get hit with the support help. Wubbin very low, has to be careful about this one. Uzi gets saved. Beautiful ultimate coming out from the support. Wubbin had to thread the needle to find that target. Great play coming out from Wubbin. Cope Well, he's going to miss it. He's going to clear the wave. Wow, he's here. A lot of players low, but they're going to control him, and they're going to toss him in the ground. Cope meets the gravel as MLC follows suit alongside Wubbin. 2 players dead on Noble, and only Cope is dead on his own team.
Chapo is here. They're trying to clean up. He's going to silence. He finds the depth side. He's going to ultimate on in. Maxity's here as well, but it's Sobset's in a lot of trouble. He doesn't have any mana. Look how fast Chapo is. He has a triple kill already.
And he's looking for number 4. Where is it? Gotta find it. Hits the dunk, hits the size. Quattro for El Chapo, hailing from Miami, and he's dancing like crazy.
Look how fast he is. He is so focused. He sees even the tier 2 tower, the prize at the end of the rainbow after the sweet quadra kill. And with Golfier respawning in about 30 seconds, with this amount of a gold and experience lead, almost 10,000 gold at the 17-minute mark, this is a point in time where Noble, they surrendered the last game at this point in time. They were already out of it, and this time they're just dominating.
Right there. If you're unfamiliar with who El Chapo is, or Thanatos the God, that play right there is both El Chapo and Thanatos in a nutshell. He's going to go ahead and be average. He was 0-2-5 before this sequence, right? He got into some trouble, this, that, or a third, but one single team fight, you make a highlight reel play, you turn it around, grab a tier 2 tower that's 1,500 in the pocket, you take care of the Gold Fury, that's gold on top of that. All of a sudden, Noble's in trouble? Nah, they're leading by 10,000 gold, and a lot of that has to do with Chapo and Uzi right there on the left side of the map.
This is the movement speed that Chapo was so used to. Last time around, he went for Heartseeker into the Stone Cutting Sword, but having to deal with the Kraken coming out of Viper, he's electing to go for still the mobility after Heartseeker, but in a little bit of a hybrid mix. Having the health onto Shield of Rigo will still help him survive that initial burst.
That's what I'm always preaching. Smite is a game about adaptation. If you have a build that you don't deviate from, you're terrible. You have to be able to deviate and make adjustments. Chapo looking for the kill. Execute threshold on point from Anxiety. Slams down, bam down. Has the Aegis right there in time, knowing he's going to get cracking in the heel. Cope Baby's here, tries to find the knockup. Cope's in trouble, surrounded by blue jerseys. Chapo looking for the kill, and Uzi takes it away. 5-0-6 and 5-2-6. Nice little identifying slash lines coming out from the console transfers.
2 for nothing. Noble here putting pressure on this tier 2 tower without minions, without their Uller player as he's boxing Sobs, having to retreat a little bit. The snipes are about to come out. Hits one, forcing out the Aegis, saving onto this third one. Off the mark, but either way, forcing out a very long relic there. Tier 2 does fall on the right-hand side. Noble making their way to that portal demon.
This is the Noble that I expected to see earlier on in the day. And, you know, like I said, a lot of it honestly has to do with Chapo. Those store games just weren't on point. Uzi was able to pick it up as the day went on and got longer, and here Chapo finally able to answer back. Chapo, we used to talk about the old Dignitas team, your team totally, when you played with Zapman once upon a time, as being this momentum-driven energy team. When y'all got ahead, you played better. You were fed off of that. That's Chapo and his team.
And that's currently Uzi and Chapo at this point in time. 5 levels ahead is Uzi compared to Cope. 4 levels ahead is Chapo compared to Maxiety. And with this lead, no hesitation, not even the 20-minute mark, starting up the Fire Giants. There's nobody here to really contest this. Chapo is going to zone away Viper. That depth sight did more than 50% of his health.
And Chapo's actually going to pay for that a little bit. Couple of shots from the ROM. Chapo going, no, I thought he was going to go deep. Instead joins the team. Fire Giant around his waist. And he's going to make his way over to safety. And yeah, that death scythe, oof.
It ruined Viper's day. He couldn't even come close to cracking that Fire Giant objective. So overall now, it's Noble with about a 13,000 gold lead with Fire Giants.
Yeah, 13 kills as well to the opponent's 5. Exactly 20 minutes on the clock. And Cope is still the problem, seems to have many problems of their own. Noble really battling it for us. Remind us a little bit about how these tiebreaker scenarios go. If Cope wins this game and comes back, they're in the Pro League, and it's all said and done, we go home. But Noble, looking like they're in the driver's seat. What happens if they win?
If Noble wins, then there's going to be a 2. They're going to be tied with Cope is still the problem at 2 and 3. And whoever wins the next one is going to be a 3-way tie. Mid Phoenix getting pressured, though, by Noble.
Here comes Cope on the backside in the wrong stance. Can't find the Fearless. Now he's stunned out by the Hunter. MLC Stealth piling those basics. Chapo very deep by himself. Uses the Sanctuary and has help from the support Wubbin. Meanwhile, Viper goes home. Sobs goes home. Cope goes home. But while they're leaving, 2 Phoenixes are gone. Thanatos in the sky. Thanatos on the ground. And Ballantyne beneath it. 2 for the young jungler. Chapo finally gets taken down by Cope, but the damage has been done. Wowie Zowie gets one for himself. The Titans being attacked 16-6 at the moment, and this one is going home. Noble, they want to spend more time. Let's stretch the night.
They're still in it to win it. Noble, they're gonna get this Titan. They're gonna stay relevant. They're now at a 2-3 record. Their tie with Cope is still the problem, and